Welcome to the first PLC meeting for the SLOs. Okay? For us, we're very fortunate to be able to have one more year to practice these SLOs before we actually fall under the new evaluation system because of our negotiated contract, which ends June 30th. And then we will jump right into the new evaluation system. So what we're going to be doing for the rest of the school year is actually learning what the SLO is all about, how to write them, and then towards the end of the school year, we're going to be videotaping, ourselves, and then our conferences that we would have with each other, which is why we brought the video camera in now, because I wanted to model what's going to be happening. Plus, it's really twofold. One is if anyone misses our meetings, we're going to put it on Blackboard and we can go ahead and critique Mary Titus and everything, but also get the information we need. And then the second point is that we get used to having the camera running and not paying any attention to it and getting comfortable with it. Okay? The other thing that we're going to be doing is writing questions on the board. Okay? I am not the absolute expert on SLOs and the evaluation system, so we're going to need each other. We're going to do all of this together. Okay? So if I don't know an answer and one of the group members doesn't know an answer, we're going to put that question up on the board and we will revisit it the following month to get, to find out what we need to do. Okay? And Mark has graciously agreed to be my scribe. Okay? On your table, I put 3 pieces of paper, and one of them is supposed to be upside down. So I know, like all good students, you've got it all laid out and you've turned everything over. But what I want you to look at is our schedule. Okay, the agenda, starting with today, and it'll go all the way until May 12th. Okay? Today is basically understanding the SLO. What is it? More like an overview. And we will go as fast as everybody is ready to go, or as slow as everybody needs to go. Because we want to make sure that when we are back in school next year, we hit the ground running and we're ready to go. Okay? If you'll notice, October and November, it's more about understanding the SLOs, but then in December, it says develop an SLO. So by December, we will have the template, we'll be working through it, writing our own, and it says December 16th, that's the Monday, that'll be our work session, and then by the 19th, before you go on holiday break, I'll need a copy of your SLO so that we can kind of take a look at that over break. Okay? And then what we'll do in March, April, and May is one, you're going to tape yourself in the classroom, and then it's going to be you're going to critique yourself in your teaching and see where you would rate yourself, and then you're going to have a peer critique your class, and then a supervisor would critique it. Okay, which is why we're all going to get comfortable with the camera. Okay. Any questions about the agenda? All right. Focus in today on the SLOs, the overview. What everybody does at the very beginning of their first class is kind of do a pre-assessment. What do your students know? Okay? And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do a pre-assessment on you. What do you know about SLO? So if everyone would just flip over one of their papers, I didn't, a scrap paper, and we're going to do a quick quiz. Okay? Any paper would do. Okay, question number 1. What does SLO stand for? What does SLO stand for? Okay, question number 2. Who will be evaluated under OTES, the Teacher Evaluation System? Who will be evaluated? your last question. How many steps are in the SLO development cycle? How many steps are there? Are we all done? Okay. All right. So let's go over these, and this will kind of give me an idea of where everybody's at. I know some people took the class in the summertime, so you probably already know all the answers. That's good. Okay, what does SLO stand for? Anybody throw it out there?
Student learning objectives.
Exactly. We got one right? Okay.
In a row.
I got half right.
Can we put this up here?
What did you put down, leaning objective?
Yeah.
Okay, who will be evaluated under OTES? Any person who's employed under a teaching license or under a professional permanent teacher certificate who spends at least 50% of his or her time employed providing student instruction, okay? This does not apply to a teacher employed as a substitute. And then it usually excludes, for us, guidance counselors, teachers on assignment, okay? All right. Did everyone get that one right?
Did we have to put 50% of his or her time employed?
Yes,
Really?
yes, 50% of the time.
Put all the teachers in the
So, would it be everyone in our building?
No.
All
No.
teaching staff.
All teaching staff minus,
Minus guidance,
Guidance.
minus counselors,
would be
minus,
BOCES, maybe?
not if they're 50, not if they're 50.
They're not 50% of the time. They're not providing instruction.
Spends at least 50% of their time employed providing student instruction.
No,
I think they're just using our
they're
instruction.
aides.
Yeah.
Needs, okay. So, a lot of this is like review for me, because I, remembered it when I took the conference, and it's like, okay, we've got to work through it, and it's a lot of stuff. And then the last one, how many steps are in the SLO development cycle?
Too many.
That is not too many.
Five.
Five steps.
I had no idea.
We have five.
Five steps. Who got five? Five. And isn't that Subway commercial? Five.
Might be a five in another language.
Okay. So who got them all right? Stephanie? My expert.
Crap.
You did get them all right? And then who got two right?
Yeah, I know I did.
Two.
Failed all the way around.
I didn't
on
put
that one.
50% of the time. but
Okay.
all teachers
All right.
have.
Okay.
55% of the time.
All right. We'll go ahead and flip that back over. This is basically what you do in SLOs. Part of it is getting pre-assessments of your classes. Okay, that would be a starting point. And then what you need to do is get an ending point. Okay? All right, if you would, we are going to.
Jump, I was there twice today trying to use my good to get it to work.
Has everyone seen this chart before?
Oh,
Yes. Okay. Do you mind if I sit down? But this booklet that I had flipped over, that's going to be like your workbook, okay, that we're going to use each month. It's a guide, and what we would do is go step by step, and it's really some good information in here. On the first page where it talks about the OTES overview, that is basically what this is. Okay? You're going to see that teacher performance on standards is 50% of your evaluation. Okay? That is going to come from your formal observations, classroom walkthroughs, okay? Pre-conference, you'll have, let's see, there'll be a written report. So that is all that piece where we'll be meeting one-on-one with each other, and then deciding what we're going to be observing. Okay? The second part that we're going to be talking about for the rest of the year is the second part, the student growth measure. And that's 50% of your evaluation. And what I did, you notice, this down here, you will, after all, 50% of this and 50% of the student growth measures, we'll combine those and we'll come to a final summative rating. And it will be decided whether you're accomplished. Okay, this says proficient, but they've changed it to skilled. Okay, so proficient, skilled, developing, or ineffective. Okay, so does everyone know the date that everything needs to be done? You know, all the observations, everything, all the conferences. Does anyone know?
You mean
Ladies
for
from the
this
summit?
year?
Well, like when we start in the
When we
fall,
start?
when would we have to be finished with all the paperwork, everything?
Isn't it like April 1st or something?
I have May 1st
Okay.
is when everything has to be ready to go. And then the final written it would come from us would be May 10th. So everything May 10th would be good. Okay.
How often do you do walkthroughs?
I do them every day, but I don't see, like right now with the walkthroughs, those aren't part of evaluations.
Do you ever give feedback on, like you come in, you write all this stuff and I'm wondering what it is
At
you're
this
writing?
time, well, at this time, we would love to be able to give you some feedback, but we can't do that right now because if we were to give you feedback, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mark, it becomes part of an evaluation. Okay. So, but next year, that feedback will all be part of it, part of the walkthroughs.
Mhm.
So, but you know, bottom line, the things I've seen in this building, in these classes, okay, is good stuff, okay? A lot of good stuff, a lot of students that are engaged and they know exactly where they need to be at. So I haven't seen anything where I would need to step in, okay, if that helps you. Okay, all right. You guys help me with this piece because I was having a little bit of trouble. Imagine that, me having a little bit of trouble. But on the O test, what I was looking at, and if you guys would look under the student growth measures, teachers are divided into 3 categories. Okay? It looks like, from what I understand it to be, okay, we're on page, it's basically page 2. You see it, Mark? It's this.
Okay.
Got it? Okay. What I was looking at, category A, teachers for whom teacher level value added data is available. And as I was working through, I don't think that's any of us, okay? Any of the teachers here. That is mostly like middle school teachers that get the evaluation reports. It's a system, a report system, so we don't get those.
Down
Okay.
in block C.
Exactly. Because category B, teachers for whom data from an assessment, and that is on the ODE vendor approved list. I did make you a copy of the vendor approved list. It is on ODE website, and I will go on in just a minute to show you. Okay. All right. If you're using Quality Core, Compass, or anything like that, any type of certification, that company is going to have to be approved. You can't do it for them. They have to apply for that approval. Okay. And the only thing I saw in here for Career Tech was on
Compass.
page 5. I saw an OSU CETE under Career Tech.
Yeah.
It's our web exam though.
It's our web
But you
exam.
got, you got your web exam, you got
Uh-huh.
Compass test.
Now
Is
for-
Lexile still on there? Because Lexile was on
Well,
there.
let's look.
Lexile's been taken off
Yeah.
because it's too subjective.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I'm not seeing that. Not seeing Lexile.
But, Mary, just
Yes.
some added information. This was the thing that I was struggling with Mary Beth when I was in a meeting with her was, some of my programs don't even fit into this categories. So what we were talking about was, you know, they would have to, they won't accept you writing your own evaluation. The state won't do that. But they have to somewhat accept a block of teachers putting an evaluation together.
And that's where that category C goes into
Right.
play. Because that's where you would work, like, Mark, you would work with other law enforcement programs and come up with a group assessment, like one assessment for law enforcement.
So, what I'm wondering is how does, I teach a 40-hour course of national certification on dispatching. I can't alter that lesson plan that they have, so I'm wondering how that's gonna work, how that's gonna fit into this.
That's a good question. We'll probably put that up on the
Yeah, I'll
board
put that
this
on
time.
the board.
Hey, Mary,
Yes.
her kids take the Star Reading Enterprise for health tech. Can we, instead of Lexile, start doing that? Cause it's.
No, I mean my children.
You're actually.
Your own children.
But it's just like the Lexile, but it's approved. Is that something that we could check into?
They didn't
We can put that up on
take
the
any
board.
of that stuff
Okay.
into consideration.
We've got two questions here, Mark.
Yeah. No, I don't want to do it. I mean, you trust that.
So Mary, for our students, like mine and Nikki's, what's the students?
It says all students should have an SLO.
I know, so but we would probably look at the category C.
Yes. And that's where just about everybody's in category C. I mean, this group is, okay?
Question 2,
Question 2 was the,
The STARS assessment,
There's
Star
another
Reading Enterprise
There's another
assessment.
reading assessment on there too, the
Yeah.
D, the devil or whatever, that's also reading.
okay.
I'm just wondering if we can start actually using these assessments type of thing. I guess is my question. You don't have to put the specific one, Mark, but can we pull some assessments off of this list to actually start using this year is my question.
You mean go onto the ODE website and see if they have assessments?
Well, because I'm guessing that some of these we have to pay for, like the
Most of these
Lexile.
are paid
Yeah.
for.
So could we bring that up to Mary Beth or whoever we need to, or the board, to find out if we can start using these actual assessments that are listed in here?
so what's the question you want to put in?
You're saying you want to do it as a, just like a pilot to see if it's working, or?
Well, that, and if they're deemed as assessments on here to be, that we can use for the SLOs, why aren't we starting to implement these this year?
The ones that are already approved.
They're ones that are already approved.
Probably a question of money.
It could be. I don't know the answer to that.
I know right now they're looking at just using
Approved assessments
the web
to
exam.
start using for SLO. Because I mean, we already do all of these assessments on them, why aren't we doing them that are approved,
I don't know, because this is.
Don't know.
is my question. And make it worthwhile, make it worth something so that.
Okay.
Just like that.
Okay. Everyone knows the definition of an SLO, correct? Okay, pretty straightforward, ladies. You guys know. And then you know that the SLO measures a given interval of instruction. Okay, so if your class is a year long, it's basically a year long type of.
No, it doesn't have to be.
It doesn't have to be.
Doesn't
No,
have to be.
no. So, but and then it could also be
You can do it for a
Um,
unit.
that's right. It can be done for a unit for a certain amount of time, right? Could be for a certain group of students.
Semester.
And
you
it
can do
can't start the first day, it's gotta start, when we did the SLO.
October,
Yeah.
they gave us we would have until October to kind of know our students, because we couldn't accurately see how much growth they're gonna have. Right from the start, so we'd have until like October to figure out and determine, and then go from there.
To track that student assessment so that we can gather information to base our SLO.
Right. Because we have to know like their backgrounds, their.
Exactly,
all
'cause
that
that's
stuff,
what
and
this-
their learning styles, to
Right.
be able to accurately have them improve.
Exactly, because it was
You
saying,
actually benefit if you have a student on
You need a
an
baseline.
IEP, you can at least look back and see where they're at,
Where
so it
they're
kinda
at, yeah.
actually does benefit.
You have a
if
roadmap.
yeah, at least they come
you
with
already have a
something.
roadmap. That's right. Okay.
So we have a fourth question?
We have lots of questions.
Go
Do we have a fourth person that we want to?
I'd like to relinquish my duty to,
Next month, we'll give it to somebody else.
Why are you pointing?
because you're doing all this and I can't write that fast.
I'm not telling you to write anything. I just wanted the question up there, why can't we do?
We're on tape. Do I have here, okay, approved assessment for SLO, now make it
Yes.
for this year?
The only one we have is the web exam right now that we use.
How about the industry standard test?
Well, that, I think, Jim, that falls here.
National certifications.
Okay,
Yeah.
because that's what I'm looking at. It says, an SLO is a measurable long-term academic goal informed by available data that a teacher sets at the beginning of the year for all students or for subgroups of students. The formative assessments, the teacher and students work toward the SLO growth targets and throughout the year and use interim benchmark and formative assessments to assess progress toward the goal. Okay? At the end of the year, the teacher meets with the principal to discuss attainment of the SLO and determine the teacher's impact on student learning.
See, that should all be reworded and rewritten because they're saying beginning of the year, end of the year, and that's not by definition what an SLO is.
Right.
It should be a chunk of time to another chunk of
The end of
time.
the- Right, point A to point B.
Yeah, and so
Okay.
that's
Okay.
to the state of Ohio.
Okay, and what it goes into is baseline, what high-quality SLOs include baseline and trend data. Okay? And that's the beginning, that's like step one, that's gathering your data. Okay, it should summarize student information like your test scores from previous years, results of pre-assessments, okay? Identify student strengths and weaknesses, and review trend data to inform the objective and establish the amount of growth that should take place. So, okay? And I'm not gonna go into why use SLOs. Can anyone give me a good answer why we should use SLOs? What's the purpose
So just track improvement
Track improvement
and student growth.
of all student growth,
Right.
because all students, you can show that all students can grow.
But you don't have to include all your students on your SLO.
No.
No. Okay. All right. It also says reinforce best teaching practices. Okay. All of you are, everyone, in my opinion, all teachers do this already. Okay. You're always looking at student growth, but you may not do it in this format, and now we're putting it into a format. So you really are doing it. You just,
Just more intentional.
more intentional, yes.
Justifying the job.
Huh?
Hmm?
I didn't hear you say.
I just said it under my breath, justifying our job for some state official.
I think we can look at the positive side, okay? We can step back and look at our students and know where they went from point A to point B. And how exciting is that, to see that growth? So,
Hey, can I ask a question? And this may be one to happen, but I don't know. The percentage of the population of students that you have to track, I heard someone say that you can have a subgroup, it doesn't have to be all of your students. Is that accurate? Did I hear that
Yeah,
accurate?
that's accurate.
So pick 3 of my best students, or
You could, but
How-
you're not gonna show much growth on them.
so
Correct.
you
Well,
want to
no,
pick,
like you would pick a class.
you probably actually want to, if it was a bell curve, you want to try to shoot for the middle. So you
Right.
can move a portion of people forward.
Right.
I don't think you're selecting portions of your class, but like Craig, he teaches A&P1, A&P2.
Exactly.
And what, he's not gonna do an SLO for every course he teaches. We're a little bit different because we only teach.
Right.
You're gonna take one of your classes.
You're gonna take like your juniors or your seniors.
But it will be the whole class that I'll
You
be.
can,
Yes.
you're gonna subgroup your kids then, because, so you're
Or
gonna
you can
have
take all kids
or you
doing
take
one particular, like,
unit
they're
or an
the-
activity or.
whatever their target, focus is. You could just take one group of kids that's into web design, and that's what the group you pick, and that's what you write your SLO.
Gotcha. Okay.
And they're not all gonna do the same thing.
Okay.
They're not all gonna have the same learning target.
And when
Some
you
of them are gonna have more growth than others. They're all
When
gonna
you
be put into
start, you list where
subgroups.
they're currently at. And
Right.
it could be like,
And that's where those pre-assessments come into play.
Okay.
But you're doing that for everybody, right? No?
No, you're doing it for a group.
Does that mean?
But you-
But you'll see different data points for each student within that group.
Yeah.
Like with
So like you're gonna have your group that you
I don't
know
know.
are probably
I'm
gonna
just
get,
asking you
your
guys.
probably gonna get, just to simplify it, that are gonna get Bs C's, the ones that are gonna get C's, and that's all based on your pre-assessment.
Yep.
Does that make sense?
Let me ask, has everyone at least been exposed at a conference to the SLOs?
I have not.
No, Jim, no, but everybody else?
Just a little bit.
Okay, all right, just wondering where everybody's learning
I
curve
guess now, if
was.
you're taking this as an example of an SLO, are you gonna bump Jim and I out because we have SLOs are like Greek to us? I
No,
mean,
we're
we
not gonna
know-
bump, yeah, what we're gonna do is, we're gonna do this.
You
as
could
a-
probably
think
show
it would
great
be
improvement
helpful.
because you're smart. And, you know.
So we should do an SLO on this group?
I think it'd be helpful if, like, those of us that did participate, if we brought in the ones that we created. during our
Yes.
thing,
That would
for
be
the
good,
people
so
that
we
don't
can
have
see
any
some
experience can
examples.
see it, because I think it'll make a lot more sense once you see.
You bring up a good
The
point,
different-
because there's examples on the ODE website of all these, and that's what I wanted to show you
But ours
guys.
are career tech ed, so it'll be more.
So pretty much the only thing I can do to show growth right now would be the web exam based on the vendor approved assessments. All I can do to show improvement.
No.
Let me drive.
Because
No.
that's the only thing that's approved in here that I would give an assessment.
Well,
Josh,
yeah, because we're different.
I,
Okay.
it's
Real
not
quick.
coming up there.
Here, I'll get
Yeah, how do you do that as a pre-assessment?
Did you do SLO, Jen?
They are gonna start allowing us to do pre-assessment next year.
I don't get rid of that
I'll
screen.
just email mine, which one?
He's-
Is there a button that watches?
For some reason, it's jumping between.
I want this, this side.
If I could be able to understand yours.
Yeah, other schools all together. Yeah, I did create our, because we have our own assessments. Like, we were creating our own assessment tools. That's why I
Because I was looking on here that, I mean, none of these really
It says,
apply
it
to
says
our
Ohio Department of
Okay.
Education recommends 2 to 4 per teacher. So.
A lot of this information, everyone,
measure.
a lot of this information is right on the ODE website, okay? This booklet that I printed off for you is right on the website. All you have to do, go to teachers. Okay, learn about Ohio Teacher Evaluation System, go there.
Does it cost for our students to take the web exam?
Okay, talks about evaluation components that we had just talked about, the two components weighted at 50%.
STA test.
Talks about the teacher performance rating, and that's where you'll get that information from, the observations, the walkthroughs, and then there's also a professional growth plan, but we'll get into that later. And then your student academic growth rating. It is in there. I wanted to show you, here's a career tech student learning objective. It's kind of small.
That's a lot of work.
Did I say 11 pages?
Yeah, it's about 11 pages. It is document heavy.
She says no.
So if you want to get a chance before the next meeting, we could take a look at this SLO and get an idea of how it's going to be filled out. And then, Kim, if you guys could bring in your samples, and then we could share those.
I'll say I just emailed mine to them.
Oh, good, okay.
This page is more stuff, so.
The template I'm looking at is only 3
But over
pages. So-
here, I can't help it.
So they must
Mine is
have wrote
only
that,
4,
they just
but-
must have wrote that really heavy.
Feel free to hit me up.
Yeah, because you can put a lot of information into that.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, also wanted to go on to the next page where it says setting SLO steps for teachers and evaluators. Okay, there are 5 steps, as we had indicated. The step 1 that we are going to focus on probably more at our next meeting, is gathering and review available data. What data do you have that you can use to make an assessment? Okay.
And that's where you hope that the middle schools and the other high schools' records are up to date.
Up to date, yes.
Well, that we can actually access them, whether it's through Naviance or whatever they're using.
You're using Naviance?
Not yet.
Not yet?
I got on there the other day.
Is it good stuff on there?
I mean, so far it's got, like I looked up one of my students from Buckeye Valley and it had her previous test scores on there, but it wasn't complete. So there was some stuff on there, but other stuff wasn't really up to date yet, so I think that it's getting there.
Okay. This is where we were talking about gathering and review available data. You know, we were asking, you know, does it have to be everybody? And this is where it talks about teachers outlining student population, which the SLO will follow, okay? It can take on many different forms, and it says teachers should try to cover as many students as possible in their SLO. Okay? As many as possible. And the student population will be based largely on what course the teacher teaches and the results of the data analysis. So it goes in, my son keeps calling me, he's very persistent. But it talks about you can do an SLO on course level. Okay, that's where they give the example, teacher with 3 English classes can write one SLO including all students enrolled in all 3 classes. Okay, and another teacher may have 3 prep periods, and then in which case they can develop a separate SLO for each course taught. So you can break it down by that. And then you also have your tiered targets, and I think maybe that's what you guys are looking at. Develop tiered targets if the data analysis shows a wide range of skill and ability.
When I wrote mine, I just do basically 3 of my 12 students were at this level, 3
Yes.
were able to independently work, 3 were able to work with, 50% accommodations, 2 were able to work with, 100%, hands-on, except, so I broke it down out of 12 kids, I broke,
So you did a
groups
tiered?
of yes,
So,
little groups of who could do what and where they were at and where they, I hoped them to be, not individually, not as a group, but individually.
okay.
Just
All right.
Yes.
what they can do.
And then they, the last one they have is a targeted SLO. Okay. It's possible to write target SLOs after a course level SLO is in place. And I don't know if we're there or not.
That's an SLO in itself.
What is?
The pants.
So Mary, the tiered you were talking about would be like if we had some students that were really low performing,
Uh-huh.
they would be like one tier level. And then we'd have the kids that were average, and then we got the top performers. We'd have 3, what does that mean?
Let me read through it, okay? But that's why we have to do this together, because it's like, I don't have it memorized. Says a teacher should consider developing tiered targets if the data analysis shows a wide range of skill and ability in student performance. Okay? If most of the class is deficient in a necessary skill, but a handful of students have already mastered this skill, a teacher might develop tiered targets for the students who are deficient in the skill and a separate tiered target for the students who have already mastered the skill. So dividing that group. Okay. Does that make sense? And I can see that in your class, I can see that in these 2 classes,
There's another class on that.
as we said.
And we have,
Yeah.
how long to learn
students
until
and B
October, you said, or somebody said?
October 1st?
October 1st, we have to, okay.
That's fair, I guess.
Huh?
That's probably fair.
Of October this year?
Well, especially for next year because.
Well, I think just in general, it's October 1st when you have to learn your population by.
And it says right here,
Kinda have an idea
what
by
Craig
then.
said, SLOs can apply to all students, like course level SLO, or subgroups of students. Okay, so, we're good with that.
Yeah, you know which ones are not paying
But
attention.
it says, in the rare case where a principal approves a student or subgroup omission, teachers should note the rationale for the omission in the SLO student population field. So we're not looking to admit any student population. Any questions about where we're getting data?
Comments?
Any comments? Any
Yeah.
more questions that we need to put on the board? Because I will get those answers and bring those back next month.
We had talked in our summer group that we went to, that like for career tech ed, we don't have a lot of like vendor approved assessments that we use.
Right.
And they had said that like we were gonna be able to get together with like other health tech teachers, like as a group
That's what I
from like
heard
different
too.
schools.
Yes.
And that we were going to be able to come up with a mutually acceptable parameters for those. Is
And
that-
that's what I was talking to Mark about, because that was the last conference I had gone to where we wanted to get with like groups, you know, other law enforcement, other health tech programs, and say, okay, here is the test that we're gonna use to assess our students, all of us, all the health tech teachers, all the law enforcement teachers, and I don't know where we are with that.
I knew Lou, the guy who had done it, you know, we talked about, with mine, it would have to be, you know, a hands-on assessment, because
Yeah.
to go onto a reading level, I mean, especially, some years would be, some would be able to, but like this year, it just wouldn't happen. I mean, it would be
But
definite hands-on.
Based on their
assessment.
IEPs, you'd be able to see
Right.
an improvement.
Oh, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
like, and not being funny, but seriously, I mean, if we can get hands-on in the hallway by 8:05 with clothing on, and that's not just, and that's being realistic, I mean, that is growth, that is a huge goal, you know, if we can.
Hands on, but
You know, I tell people, you know, at the end of 2 years, kids still might not be able to do a cake mix, but they've learned the social skills, they've learned, you know, to clean up after themselves, do laundry, wipe down, I mean, there's other,
SLO.
And those are the ones that you're targeting,
Well,
yes.
and they're hard to write because they have to be measurable.
Yeah,
And I mean,
Yeah.
so, and all of those are also a little bit subjective.
It's all
Side,
subjective.
exactly,
It's
well,
all
like Lou said, if they can read the word hot that they couldn't before, or on and off,
Exactly.
and, you know, it just
they're
depends
making
on.
improvement.
well, but see, the other thing that they're not telling you, or we haven't gotten to yet, is it's not enough to write the SLOs. You have to hit your marks.
The
If you don't hit
benchmarks,
your
yes.
marks, well, then guess what? You're not an effective teacher.
And we'll go into that the next time.
What was that?
Okay.
Oh, this whole thing, you
All
know,
right.
present this whole thing, but what are you gonna do? Because you look at
We're
this,
gonna learn this together, we're gonna do it,
Oh, we
and
got
we're gonna
no
be
choice.
smiling, we're gonna be smiling about it, okay? So it is, you know, your time allotment, and I wanted to be observant of your time. So next month, October 14th, okay, we're gonna be bringing samples of SLOs, and we are, we're gonna be talking about the benchmarks. Okay, oh, yeah.
No, it is true.
Set
Hey,
up.
Josh?
You're gonna be able to go from IEP to
We're all-
SLO.